why don't you just open up the company and then find something for the company to do? And it clicked to me. I was like, because I was, every time I would talk to him about it, was always, I got to do this, got to do this and do this. And he said, well, why did you just open up the company and then find something the company to do? And what that did for me was it got me out of park and got me into drive. And I realized that most people you talk to, they have an idea for a business. They have something that God has blessed them with that they can actually turn into a business venture, but they never get out of park.
You're listening to the Good for Business podcast, where we feature interviews, tips, and tricks from owners, operators, and innovators throughout Mississippi and around the world. And now, your host, Colin Krieger. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode. I am here with my friend Layforn or Fonz Profice, insurer to the stars. How you doing, man?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. That's the biggest question. We always start with the pedigree thing. So in the case of your name, now I'm Colin Krieger, Colin the Kriegler, Colin Krieger, Colin Kriegler, and different names. Tell everybody in the world, including your friends, the correct way to pronunciate your name.
All right. So it's LaFon. So if you think about it, take that Y and the R out, it's LaFon. Now, I know you're going to get into all the origin story and everything, but the way I believe that it's Layforn.
Yeah.
But, we're in the South. So we either add an R, we take an R out, or we say the R incorrectly. So somehow it became LaFon. So
I'll take it. And of course, if I like calling you Fonz, it makes it easy.
Yeah.
And I always have that thing. People call me Colin Kriegler. There's a Kriegler family here that does banking and insurance, and everybody likes them. So I don't correct them. Mm-hmm. And then I'm sure people go up to Mark Kriegler all the time and tell him how great his brother is. So it's one to accept that. So pedigree information. Can you talk about your wife and your kids, where you're living now?
Okay. Live in Starkville. Starkville is pretty much home now. I've been in Starkville since 94. So that's going on 31 years now. So I've actually been in Starkville probably longer than I've been anywhere else. But originally from Natchez, Mississippi, born in Natchez and raised my, I would say my young years in Louisiana. Oh, okay. And then we came back to Natchez and then wound up at Starkville.
How far away across the border in Louisiana were you?
So it's a funny story. My dad used to work for Woolco, so that kind of shows you my age right there. Yeah. But he was in management for Woolco, and so he and my mother got married, moved to Louisiana, and when she got pregnant, with me, the third trimester, she came back to Natchez because they didn't have family there. So came back to Natchez, birthed me, then we went back to Louisiana. I know the last place we were was Hammond, Louisiana. That's the one I remember the most. Yeah. But I was told that we also lived in Shreveport and Lafayette as well. Now, don't ask me about Shreveport and Lafayette. I don't have any memories of those, but Hammond, Louisiana, I have more memories.
Home of the Strawberry Festival.
Yes.
Plus, you pronounced Lafayette right. My daughter's going up to school at Old Miss, and they say Lafayette up there, and they're wrong. So
I agree
very much.
I agree.
So you live with your wife now and kids? Or
yes. So this me and my wife. My children are pretty much out of the house, but my youngest one, she's going to school at Mississippi State, so Hale State. So she's going to school at Mississippi State. We are literally, if we're 2 miles from Mississippi State where I stay, I'll be shocked. So it made more sense for her to stay home with us. My oldest one, she's graduated from Delta State. She did it kind of backwards. She went from Delta State, then she joined the Air Force. So now she's in California in the Air Force. I always forget the name of the base, but Vanderbilt. I think that's it.
Is she flying or fixing?
No, she's actually in medical field. She's a med tech. Yes. Weird thing is she doesn't like she didn't want to fly, but she has literally jumped out of a plane that has no issues at least three times. times. She and that's not something the Air Force asked her to do. She just decided she wanted to learn how to jump out of planes, and she's done it 3 times. She's working to where she can do it on her own and not have to jump out with a partner. Be careful.
She's going to get put on active duty and have to save some people.
Exactly. So yeah.
You got to be careful those patches you put on your shirt.
Exactly.
In that line of work. So tell me about this when we're talking about somewhere between 8-year-old and 15-year-old baby Fonz walking down the street in rural Mississippi or Natchez. What was the first whether it's cutting grass or delivering milk, what was the first job you ever had?
My first job, and actually it was a learning experience for me as well. When I was young, my family, we were okay. We were average middle class. My dad was a manager for. He was for. Golly, what was the name of the store? My mom, she was an assistant manager for Family Dollar. My dad was a manager for Bill's Dollar Store in Port Gibson, Mississippi. And so, again, we were well-to-do, but as kids, we like certain things.
Yeah.
I wanted some Jordans. I wanted some. I wanted some nicer. I wanted some Jabot. I don't know if anybody remember what Jabot was.
Yeah.
And so, of course, they had Levi. They bought me Levi's. They bought me some decent Nikes. But then my dad told me, I said, well, if you want those things, then you got to work for it. So my next door neighbor, and literally he passed away probably about a month ago. But my next door neighbor, he had a side business that was landscaping. And so I started working with him over the summer doing landscaping. That was probably the best lesson I was ever taught. We worked from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, sometimes 6 and 7 o'clock, cutting grass. And I don't know if I could do it in this heat we have today, but we did it then. And when I got paid at the end of the week, and I looked at what I made and how much the Jordans cost and how much the clothes I wanted, I was like, you know what? No, I'm not. So I learned real quick it's different when you're spending somebody else's money. But when you're spending money that you've worked hard for, it opened my eyes. I was like, you know what? I really don't need, I don't need those shoes. I really don't have to have those clothes. And so I bought something a little nicer than what I was wearing before, but I didn't buy the Nike. I didn't buy the Jordans. I don't think I've ever owned a pair of Jordans.
Well, and back then, that's when money was money. I think a lot of people, I'm almost 50 years old, a lot of people of kind of our generation, we used to hear our grandparents say Coke cost a nickel, and it never really affected us or we had any perception of it until after COVID.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, I'm like, why isn't a can of Coke, a 12-pack of Coke now is $10? I'm like, a can's, and I'm like, holy cow. Like, you don't notice it as much at restaurants. Like, it hurts. But, that's sort of my argument for doing the podcast. It's like, I'm spending the same amount of money as I've taken somebody to lunch.
I told my daughter, I said, you used to be able to take $5 to McDonald's and get a whatever meal you wanted to get and got change back. You barely can get a sandwich now for $5. I mean, you're spending $10 at McDonald's for a meal for yourself. It's
As a father of 3 teenage daughters, I feel the pain. It's heartbreaking. I used to, and it's gotten back to where the groceries are better than going out to eat. But there was a couple of years after COVID where you might as well just go to the restaurant.
Exactly.
Because the groceries are crazy. I would take my kids all the time and say, we go to Chick-fil-A and it'd be $32. And I said, tomorrow we're going to go and see how much breakfast you can buy for $32 at the grocery store.
Yep.
Which now that eggs have come down a little, it's a little better. So
it's a little better.
So what was the next job after landscaping?
So after landscaping, then I realized I didn't like to be out in the sun all that time. So the next job was McDonald's. And so I worked at McDonald's probably my sophomore year to my senior year. I probably worked from sophomore to senior year in high school. And then after that, I came to college at Mississippi State. When I came to college at Mississippi State, I went work for McDonald's for a little while. But I was blessed with an opportunity to start working at Freeman Jewelers. And when I started there, I considered that my first real job. I had to put on a tie and dress up a little bit.
So you missed the generation of the 80s, because in the mid-80s, McDonald's workers, they had little bow ties and stuff.
Yeah, I missed that.
You got to skip that generation?
I had either a polo shirt or and a smock. Yeah,
where was McDonald's in Starkville back then?
Well, it was. I worked at the one where the car wash is now in Starkville. There was a McDonald's that was there. And so I think I worked at that one, and then I worked at the one that was across from Walmart sometime as well. So I worked kind of at both of those, but mainly the one that was closer to campus. But so after that, got an opportunity to work at Freeman Jewelers. I went in as a salesman, assistant manager, and then finally became a manager. And so I did that probably for 7 years. I could be off on that a little bit. And then Freeman Jewelers closed up, and it wasn't just that store; all of them closed.
You did that through college in your mid-20s?
Yeah, I did that. See, I went to school in '94. I became manager in '98. I did more playing around the first go around in college, and so I didn't finish up the first time. But then later, I realized the importance of it. Went back and I finished up in the interdisciplinary studies. I always get that wrong. But
well, I mean, you've got the career path a lot of entrepreneurs have, which is I worked outdoors and suffered.
Yes.
You worked in the restaurant business and you learn like how to deal with hectic situations, bad things out of your control, and either managing people or managing equipment. And then you go inevitably into sales.
But it's weird, Colin, when I worked outdoors, I knew kind of what to expect. When I worked for McDonald's, I kind of knew what to expect. When I worked for the jewelry store, you're selling jewelry, you're dressed up, you're in a cool place. You think that you have a level of high expectation for how people react. The people dealing with the public is dealing with the public. I don't care where you. I could tell you some crazy stories that we do not have time for right now, and probably don't need to tell on TV, that things that have happened in a jewelry store that I would think, why do people act like this? And what I realize, I think what some people do is they feel like they can take something out on you, and because of your job and your situation, you're supposed to just take it. Yeah. And so they have a bad experience somewhere else. They come in, and before you know it, they shouting at you for no reason, whatever it is, and they feel like they can, like their money justifies them taking out whatever they want to take out, and you're just supposed to sit there and smile. Yeah. And so sometimes I did, and sometimes I didn't. So,
well, those are some of the best customer service lessons I learned from being in the restaurant business and the pizza business. I bought a restaurant with another guy when I was 21 years old, and we did well with it for a few years. He actually bought it back a few years back. Great. James is doing great out there. But in 1 week of opening, we had one complaint where we broke a glass jar in a kitchen, and a woman called us later that night, and her son had bit into a piece of glass, and she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I know this sort of thing probably happens all the time. Just wanted to give you a heads up." And we found glass in our dough for that night and threw it, and we were like, "Oh my God, that was the easiest." I still remember it. And then the next night, some lady called screaming, blah, blah, all this stuff. We forgot. At the end of the day, she had said we forgot her extra ranch sauce, and that was it. And my partner's like, "Come on, we need to talk about what's wrong." He goes, "I'm going to come there. I'm going to remake the pizza." He goes, "You want a glass of wine? It sounds like you need a glass." She was like, "I would love it." And he went, and we went there together, and the lady was literally, her husband just left her. She had broke up. But his example to me of customer service was not to argue with the customer. Yeah. To try to get to the core of the issue, because if you sit there arguing, you're going to have to listen to a 20-minute story. Whereas if you say, "Hey, if there's something I can do to make this perfect," I was just talking to our mayor here about he's mending fences with different people, and he's starting his conversation, Stephen Jones is, with what does a perfect relationship with the city look like to you? We haven't done it well in the past. How do we do it now? And those are some lessons you have to learn. And again, the pressure of McDonald's helps, and jewelry. So were you selling jewelry on commission, or both directions? And
to go back to what you were saying, I had a supervisor give me a valuable lesson. He said, "You may win the battle, but you're going to lose the war." And he said, "You have to be careful how you're dealing with your customers, because you may be correct. You might be on the right ground. But if you're, like you say, if you don't get to the issue of that, then you'll lose the war, you lose the customer, you lose war." So that was my first commission job. And it kind of, I almost felt like God was preparing me for something, preparing me for where I am today as far as an entrepreneur. So we had an hourly pay, but then we also got paid commission on what we sold, and we got bonuses as well. So that was my first taste of commission. Then while I was there, that's when I first opened up a company on my own. I say on my own, I had two other partners that went in with me. And let me see, it was Triune Investment. It was three of us. We was all coming in together. So it was just a perfect name. You would have been getting
close to 30 by then? Or?
I was closer to, actually it was. I was in my late 20s. When I did it. I was actually one of the youngest managers of Freeman Jewelers. I think I started managing probably around 24 or something like that. Then a few years later, and I have to give my dad credit for this. I was talking with him. This is when he was still alive, and I was telling him how I wanted to do something on my own. I wanted to form my own company, and he gave me what was good advice for me may not be good advice for somebody else. But he said, "Well, why don't you just open up the company and then find something for the company to do?" And it clicked to me. I was like, because I was, every time I would talk to him about it, it was always, I got to do this, got to do this and do this. And he said, "Well, why did you just open up the company and then find something the company to do?" And what that did for me was it got me out of park and got me into drive. And I realized that most people you talk to, they have an idea for a business. They have something that God has blessed them with that they can actually turn into a business venture, but they never get out of park. Fear paralyzes people. And still, even what I do today, there's still some fear in it, but I have to keep moving. I have to, if you don't have a little bit of fear and there's something wrong with you, but this, besides that, you have to continue on moving through. So it got me out of park. I got, and that was my first entrepreneurial business. I did the business with two friends. So I've learned
the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership.
Yes, sir. So they had two friends, no lawyers, no accountants. Now I have lawyers. I have an accountant that helps me with. But you know what? In hindsight, I look back on that, and it wasn't all just them. It was some issues that that a lot of things what I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I learned from those lessons, and so Freeman's closed up, and one of the business ventures that we were doing, and we were doing pretty well, was we were purchasing cars from like loan offices that were repossessed. And hopefully I don't get myself in trouble here. But anyway, we were purchasing cars, we would fix them up, but we wouldn't put them in our name, and so we would turn around. They call it curbside selling. And so what you would do is you basically sell a car, and then you'll basically put the title in the next person's name.
Yeah.
The
issue,
issue,
it's like wholesaling in real estate.
Yeah. But you're technically supposed to put the title in your name, pay taxes on it, and then turn around. And
well, it's been 7 years since this allegedly happened.
Yes, so since allegedly happened.
Under our current administration, I don't think anybody's coming for you.
So. I appreciate it. I hope not.
I'll make sure this episode doesn't play in D.C. Well, which I talk to people all the time who ask me about business stuff, and they're like, "Well, I got to call somebody to form an LLC." I'm like, "Let me tell you this. The greatest part about living in America, it's 11:18 a.m. on a Tuesday. We can be, unless you're dealing with food, we can not only have an LLC, have bank accounts open, have a lease on a building, and probably have a tax license in Mississippi, an occupational license by 5 o'clock today." Now, when you start talking, if you need sprinklers and if you need health stuff, that's different. But that goes back to, that's our first quote of the week, boys and girls. Dorothea Brand, who is, I think she had the third highest selling personal growth book, is like the Bible, Think and Grow Rich. And then Dorothea Brand wrote a book, and it was a bunch of great quotes. And you've heard me say this one before, but don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Oh, yes.
So many people think that I'm 22 years old and I want to wash cars and I need an LLC and I need to talk to a lawyer. I'm like, you probably need an LLC and insurance, but like, you don't need all these things. So they stop themselves from doing everything. I've fallen a podcast same way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, well, I won't get the right mic and the right camera and the right this.
Just start.
And now we're on our second set of cameras here, and it's fine. Everything's going to work out fine. Plus, sometimes those are the cheapest lessons you learn, is getting out of a friend that either betrays you or y'all didn't talk enough about how you were supposed to work, like what they expected of each other. And that's where I said the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. It's a difficult discussion to have with folks I've gone into business with, where I'm like, listen, you can be the owner or I can be the owner, but we need to agree that here's how much I'm going to work. If I want to leave, this is what happens when I leave. And sometimes those lessons, despite how much information is out there, sometimes you have to learn them the hard way.
Exactly. So I haven't thrown out the baby with the bathwater. I may do a partnership in the future, but I know the right questions to ask beforehand and making sure that we do it correctly. But so I did that. We were selling cars. We were doing well. It was actually a holding company. So we had a car that we were doing cars underneath in one company. Another company we was doing vending, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about that later. And then the other one we was dabbling in real estate. And so when the jewelry store closed, I had the bright idea, which again, I think it was more pride than anything. I had the bright idea, hey, let's open up an actual car lot. Let's do a used car lot. So this was in 2008. I don't know if you remember 2008. Perfect timing. And so I decided I was going to do a used car lot. I did one in Starkville. What I hadn't really calculated is, regardless if I sold a car or not, there was still the electric bill that had to be paid, the utilities, everything that goes along with, running a business like that. So I was blessed to do that for about a year. We closed that up, and then I said, you know what? Let me go actually work for a car lot. Let me try working for a car lot. And then I went and worked at Mitchell Automotive in West Point.
Yeah.
I had probably worked all over the Golden Triangle. I worked at Mitchell Automotive for about 6 years. They opened up a location in Starkville, Parker. It was Parker McGill, now it's Parker. Worked there for about 2 years. I pastor a church now in Aberdeen, Mississippi. I've been there for 6 years, Mount Nebo. And then while I was there selling cars, I had got to a point where I was gotten frustrated, and I wanted to just say, you know what, it felt good to start selling, working for someone else, and I didn't have to worry about payroll. I didn't have to worry about utilities. I didn't have to worry about all the things. All I had to do was just go out, sell a car, and basically what I kill, I brought home, and so forth. And then that's the other thing. It got me to a point when I'm not sure how. I've talked to some guys that sell cars now. They now get they get some money now, and they get commission on top of that. When I started, it was totally commission. I'm talking about, I can remember some months, I'm almost embarrassed to say some of the checks I got, how small they were. But this showed me that I was kind of technically still working for myself. And but I was blessed to do that for 7 years, and I continue to learn. But I still wanted to do something for myself. And so then while I was selling cars, I went, like you say, in a night's time, did another LLC, another company. So I still have a holding company that I do things under besides my insurance. But that enabled me to do that. And then later, the opportunity came for me to work at Allstate and to have an Allstate agency. And so I did that for 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. And then a lot of things started changing with Allstate as far as the direction they wanted to go. They say they were for the agents, but we could tell they were trying to go more direct to customer.
And we've seen that nationwide in the last 4 or 5 years with a bunch of big companies. I talked to Andy Hubbard a little about it, but you think you're working for yourself because you're a franchise, but in some respects, it's just like earning a Papa John's franchise. Every 5 years, they come in and be like, you need to change that sign. You need to do this. And if you don't sell Universal Life, you're not gonna make any money.
Exactly.
And put you in a position where you're selling something you don't want to sell.
Yes.
And so you did that for 7 years. That's around where we met. Fonz is another person from BNI, or BNI Group on Thursday mornings, Business Network and International. Even Josh, who owns Catfish Alley Studios, is in a BNI group, and it's an excellent way to network. It's a good way to meet people, and it's a good place for people to go in there and where we learn about each other and what we do for business. Now I'm going to ask you this question. I usually don't bring up controversial stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and take a picture when I say it.
All right.
Let's talk about what you don't want to talk about.
Oh, what's that?
The levitating clock.
Okay. I forgot about the levitating.
This man holds the patent for a levitating clock, ladies and gentlemen. And in the video version of it, we're going to put a clip of my good friend who's in the insurance business now himself, Chris Pakasasi CPAC. We're going to insert a picture here. Of him staring and marveling at one of the last remaining levitating clocks. So tell us the story behind that.
So I was I'm trying to remember where I was working at the time. I think I was working. Okay, I was actually selling cars at the time. I was working for Mitchell Automotive, and as I was telling you, I for about 2 years I'd worked, and I was working for Mitchell Automotive, and though that weight of being an entrepreneur was off me, it was something in me that just wanted to get back into doing something on my own. I mean, it's just like I couldn't put it down. It was just I kept having ideas of things that I wanted to do. So so again, I opened up I opened up a holding company again, and this time it was just me. And I was looking online trying to figure out something that I could sell, and you know, you had all this is a common thing now, but it wasn't so then. But the affiliate marketing, you know, you can sell something for Amazon, but not actually have the product. And I explored that, but I said, you know what, I really want to create something on my own. And so I designed as you say, a levitating clock. It was kind of like a pyramid, a black pyramid that floated on top and had a clock with it. And
for like your desk or a bedside. I say back then, most people are using their phones now, but people, I know people used to have alarm clocks, ladies and gentlemen. People under 30 are just marveling at this. But yeah, his was a 9-inch by 9-inch thing with a little triangle on top that's floated.
The idea was to have it as more of an art piece. So, for instance, it would either be on your office desk, and I figured it'd be a great conversation piece. Somebody comes to your office, they sit down and talking with you, and they looking like, okay, what is this? And then it just more of a conversation piece, or art piece. But that again it was another lesson that I learned. I got with a company called Alibaba, which is probably common. Most people know now, but but at the time it was really, I don't know if it was just starting, but people in America were just kind of getting to know it. And so they put me in touch with a company in China. I was literally on the phone with someone in China that I was speaking with about my design, and I was scared. I mean, I'm like, you know, am I gonna throw away money? You know, just on that. So I sent the guy a design. He sent me back a prototype. I had to send him some money, of course, and then he sent me back a prototype. And I made some changes in it because, you know, when you design it and when you actually have it there in your hand, you realize, okay, I need to change this, change that, send it to him. But now this is where the rubber hits the road. And I had to send him, I can't remember the exact amount of money, but I did it. I wired it to him. And I just, in my mind, I say, this money is lost. And about 2-3 weeks later, I get a huge box full of all my clocks in it, and I was in business. And so I got to selling them. But here's another lesson learned. I was not good at marketing at the time. And so so the price point that I paid for them, in order for me to really get them where I needed to make a good profit margin off of, I needed to order quite a bit of them. And I didn't have the capital for it at the time. I sold a few of them and did okay. And but then I sold one. I thought I was really doing something. Somebody from I think it was New York purchased one, and I got a call back about 2 weeks later, and he was like, "I love the design, I love the everything, but you're infringing on my patent." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he was like, "The actual levitating mechanism itself." He said that he had a patent on. Not on my design, and I was responsible for the design, but he said the actual mechanism itself was that, and he wanted to know where I got it from and who, and I told him, I said, well, I got it from a company in China, you know, through Alibaba, and he said they are infringing on my, and it was getting too legal, you know, and I talked with my attorney, he was like, you could fight it, but he said this could cost you money and so forth. So I just got to a point, and I really wasn't doing as well as I wanted to off of it. So I just told him, I said, you know what, we'll put an end to that. And so, but I learned another lesson. So I don't consider these losses, I consider lessons. So, you know, if I was to do something like that along that line again, I got a better idea of what I need to do if I were to do that. But like I say, it was never my design that was the issue. It was always the mechanism itself that did it. But it taught me that, you know, if you have an idea, you can get with a company, whether it be in China, whether it be somewhere, and you can go from pen and paper to a physical product that you're actually selling to the public.
Well, there's examples like that. I've had multiple examples in marketing where, like, I've said some phrase or come up with something and been absolutely shocked that it's not trademarked or hasn't ever been said or ever. And people think that every idea has come up and everything matters.
Yep.
Another example, I tell people all the time, I have a lot of friends who back to the perfect is the enemy of the good,
Yeah.
or just dying thinking of the name of their place and they can't. They're like, I can't think. And I said, listen, Google. I know Google's a real world, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Google. When the first time I heard it, I'm like, what the heck is that? And
Yeah.
there's companies like that all the time that aren't that clever of a name, and they're
No.
doing really, really, really well.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so people overthink. They overthink that sort of thing. They overthink product design, or they think somebody else has done it, and you'd be shocked, how often either somebody hasn't done it or they haven't bothered to trademark or patent it because they just did it. And it's really hard to search patents unless you spend $5,000, $6,000, $10,000.
Exactly.
Like you can do them, and then usually the manufacturers, most of the big ones, when they get a big order, they check before, because as you said, they're even in China.
Yeah.
They're going to get a letter too.
Yeah, exactly.
They're in line. They're supposed to know. They have databases for that check that sort of thing.
Correct.
All right. Well, I'm glad you told. I'm going to get that. I'm going to track down that picture of Chris looking at
problem.
it. So, where did vending come along? You mentioned it with your partners, and then you do a little of it now.
Yeah. The first time I did any vending, one of my business partners, he came up with the idea actually. Or I think in one of our meetings we mentioned it, but he had a location in Tupelo. Matter of fact, I think it was a barbershop, if I'm not mistaken. And he said, listen, we could put a vending machine in here. I'll service it, so forth. So as we started off, he was working with it. I can't recall if that barbershop closed or something happened to where we had to move the vending machine out of there. So then there was a location. It was a woman that I befriended that her husband he actually taught flying lessons at his it was out at the Golden Triangle. It wasn't at the Air Force. It wasn't at the it wasn't at the airport itself, but one of the what do they call them, the bays or whatever.
Yeah, hangars.
The hangars. Thank you. He actually taught lessons out there, and so she said, "Why don't you bring the machine out there?" So I brought the machine out there, and it did okay, but it gave me an opportunity to play around with it and see. So I had it out there for a couple of years. Be honest with you, I'm not sure if it really, I can't recall if it did well or not. But when I started on my own again, and I wanted to do something, I said, well, I'm gonna start off small. I got some gumball machines, and I started from there, and I just did a few gumball machines like that. And as that grew, I decided, you know what, let's actually get a vending machine. And so I started with one, and again, it was one of those stepping out on faith. I found this company online, and I had to pay for it up front, and I'm just wondering, was this going to be a scam or something like that? And the UPS truck pulled up, a big old machine, and I had a location for it already, so I dropped it off at that particular location. They set it up for me. I got it all set up, and that was a start, and I'm up to about 9 now. 9 machines. Again, it's you look on YouTube and TikTok and you see these people pulling out great wads of money out of the machine. It's not. I'll tell you what it's like. It's like real estate. Location.
Yeah, getting a grocery store or something.
It's got to be a location that gets good traffic and so forth. So I'm still in the learning phases on that as well. But yeah, the location matters more so than the machine, more so than anything else. That location matters. And so if you get the right location, everything else will fall into place. But if you don't have a right location, you got the best machine in there in the world, and all you're going to be doing is throwing money at it. But that's how I kind of got into that. Yeah.
That's not a bad gig though. And people, people are always everyone's looking for, now maybe not get rich quick, but easy.
Yeah.
And people don't understand those things are a few hours a week, or, 30 minutes a week per machine or whatever. You and I talked about a laundromat one time, and that was part of it. Who's going to go?
Yeah, exactly. And, and it's weird, Colin, if you were to, and people ask me all the time, and they say, how did you get into this? How did you start? What made you, and my daughter, she always laughs at me when I say this, but I'll tell people, I say YouTube University. I'm telling, I have learned so much. I would just go on and say, hey, whatever it is I'm interested in. And I promise you, if there is somebody that has done something similar to what you're looking at, or something close to it, and I've gotten more ideas, more, education from just looking at somebody else do it. Listen, and I know I'm going to tell off on some folks, but I can remember going into the service bay at the dealership, and the guy working on your car is looking up a YouTube video.
Oh, yeah.
Looking up a YouTube video. I said, wait a minute, you just came from classes from GM. He said, I know, but man, it's just so much easier just to look at here and see somebody else doing it, and then, me do it as well. I said, hey, I do it myself.
Well, I've had 3 big moments in my life and my career with that. The first being when I started in real estate, I wanted to get some letters behind my name because I was doing great in marketing, great in sales. But one other agent told somebody I knew, he's like, well, he's not committed because he doesn't have a designation behind his name. And fast forward 5 weeks later and a lot of money, and I had 12 of them.
Wow.
So, my argument being they're either not all that hard to get or they are hard to get, and I put in a bunch of work. The truth is somewhere in between.
Yes.
The second time was during COVID, looking at the PPP money. I remember we talked about that.
Yes.
I am hundreds of hours into tax and retirement education. I wasn't paying attention to it. I didn't comprehend it. And now I know as much of the lingo as most accountants in our state. I don't know what form to fill out, but I know if you're self-employed with an S Corp and want to do this, give me a call. I love talking about it. And then now recently in the last year and a half, I'm a couple hundred hours into what I call college funding, but like scholarships and financial aid and what you can do to your tax return and which schools will want to help you more. I actually have a meeting with the head of financial aid at Ole Miss tomorrow on the phone. I look forward to talking to her because we talked a little at orientation, and I was like, I just have some questions about, we'd rather, we're getting some financial aid and some scholarship. Can we, you want more of it on scholarship, and it's counterintuitive.
Yes.
A university, if they have a really good kid coming, they want to get them to about 80% of their money, and they don't care whether it's scholarship or financial aid. The only problem with that is if your income goes up the next year, you lose the financial aid. Whereas if it was a scholarship, they can just renew it every year. And so that's a discussion. And she was just happy that I even knew that part to talk about before the meeting, just somebody who understands and respects what they do. So,
and it's something I found out this past year through if you get because my daughter was blessed to get so much scholarship. If you get so much of it, and she even has a little small job as well, it eventually start to count it as income, and you could be taxed on it. And so it's a positive and a negative in it, but that's good about having a good accountant to point you in the right direction. And I have to give a shout out to Cal. Golly, what's Cal's last name? Rackley. I can remember when I first started my company, and I don't know, maybe he was starting off too, but when I first started my company, all I had was probably 2, maybe 3 gumball machines. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm starting off a company, but this time I want to do it right. I want to have an accountant. I want to have a lawyer that I can count on. And with me probably making $40 for the whole year through my company, he said, yeah, let's start it. And he's been my accountant since then. So he's been with me since I was probably making $40 a year to what I'm making now. So
well, speaking of what you're making now, tell us about the newest venture. You got out of Allstate, and what you doing now?
So now I've become an independent agent. And what I do now is health insurance, life insurance, dental, vision, Medicare Advantage. I'll be starting that up this open enrollment. So the reason, matter of fact, this month, this month will be a year because I closed the Allstate office July 31st of last year. So this will be my first full year doing this. And so, but what it does is gives me the ability. And don't get me wrong, Allstate was great for the customer. But there were times that I was feeling like I was trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. I was doing the best for my customer with what I had. But now, as an independent agent, I have more options that I can take care of my customer. So now, I'm not just saying, well, this is what I have. Well, let me find out what works best for you. And that's what I do, whether it be life insurance, whether it be health insurance, dental, vision, Medicare Advantage. I can shop better for my customer now, and so that it opened up a bit more options for me, give me more flexibility.
Has it become any easier? Because I've seen problems with entrepreneurs where they're on their own and they can't get health insurance. And so their spouse will just work for the health insurance. Or I know 2, maybe 3 successful small businesses where they work a part-time job or a full-time job just to get the insurance.
Everybody's situations are different. With the subsidies that you can get through the ACA, sometimes it makes more sense for you to get that rather than to get group. And I do group health insurance as well. So sometimes it makes more sense for you to do that versus doing the group. Depending on how much you're making, it may make more sense for you to get the group health insurance versus going with the ACA. And then in some cases where both of those are not the best, we have indemnity policies as well. And so our short-term health insurance as well. So in some of those cases, those will be more economical for a person if they just can't afford, the other insurance. But there are a lot of changes that are going on in the health field.
Yeah.
Like I said, we don't have time to speak in all that. So it's a constant education. If there's anything else, it's just I have to know more about more companies. And whatever I learned last year is now different this year. And so now I have to just continue. It's just a continued educational process. So, yeah.
Is it still scary for a single person, self-employed, to get insurance right now? I know it's a little better than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah. It's what I would tell a person is not so more as scary as that you just need to do it. And with an independent agent, I could find the best option for you. And so I wouldn't just not get it because then what you're dealing with then is the possibility of you getting sick, something comes up, and now you got collection bills and things of that sort that can derail you from your financial future. But more importantly, in my community, I would say in my community, I would hear a lot of people that would say, well, my grandmother, she was great. She didn't have any issues until she went to the hospital, and then she died shortly afterwards. And I used to think, people would think the hospital is evil, the hospital is this and that. But it clicked to me later that maybe if grandmama had went to the hospital to get her normal checkups 5 years when that cancer first popped up, and if she was going to get her normal checkups, they would have caught that early and then corrected it. But if you don't have any health insurance, that little pain that you feel in your side, you say, well, it'll be fine. It's just a little pain. Or that cough that you're getting that won't go away because you don't have insurance, you don't ever go to the doctor to get it checked out. To when you finally go, is at a point that there's nothing that can be done for you anymore. Now you're at a point that there's nothing that it takes a miracle then. then you come into the church and you're asking me to pray for you. It takes a miracle then. But if you'd have started back here, then maybe she would have still been around. Maybe it wouldn't have the quality of life later would have been better. And so I see it as a part of someone's legacy to have proper health insurance, because when that person comes off the board, when that mom comes off the board, that father comes off the board, whoever's left behind, it becomes harder for them now to take care of the family. And so it puts their future in jeopardy. So it's not always about just having life insurance, which I do that. Having proper health insurance to make sure that you are around, or at least you are in a position to be of help to the family, versus lingering and the family having to take on more of a burden to take care of you. So it's a passion as well as just a job. Yeah.
All right. Well, as we're wrapping up, plug away. How do they get in touch with you? What do you want to sell them? How can we help you?
I am just about on I'm trying to be on everything. If I'm not on it, let me know and I'll get on it. But my website is going to be www.proficeifs.com. So since everybody don't know how to spell Profice, PROFICE, and then IFS for insurancefinancialservices.com. And then my phone number is 662-657-4344. And so they can reach me at either of those. Either of those, or like I say, on any social media, they can reach me as well.
So it doesn't matter what they call you, as long as they call you.
As long as they call me, you're exactly right. Exactly.
Good deal, man. Thank you, my friend, for being on here today, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.